Hello students! In this video we will be practicing the math skill that we call multiplying by powers of 10. Now when you were in younger grades you started learning about place value and you learned that the digit in this first place is the ones place. This is just worth 7, the number 7. And then you learned that the 3 here in this place is not worth 3, right? It's worth 30. It's actually worth a lot more, and the way that we show that in math is just by putting it in this second place here. Okay, so this is all things that you've already learned before. And then when we put a number in this third place, what do we call that? The hundreds place. That's right. And so you know that that 2 is not actually a 2, even though it has the digit 2, because it's in this place that we call the hundreds place, then we know that that's actually worth 200. So we're going to use that knowledge to our advantage to help us do some kind of higher level multiplication problems. So we'll start with a really basic multiplication problem like 5 times 5. Okay? Now, depending on where you are with your facts, you might use a number of different strategies to use that. We want to get you to the point where you know your facts very fluently and accurately. So you could just say, oh, 5 times 5, that is 25. If you know that already, that's great. That's where we want you to get, but you're probably on your way to still learning that. So if you're using a multiplication chart or a strategy like counting by 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, though any strategy that works as long as we get you to the accurate answer, and then we'll work on speed throughout the year. Okay, so that's just a basic multiplication fact that we want to learn. One thing that we're learning now, which is kind of cool, if we put this 5, so it's not in the ones place, and now all of a sudden that 5 is in the tens place, well, there's a pretty big difference between 5 and 50, right? So we can say, ooh, I already know that the product here, the answer is going to be much, much larger if I have 5 groups of 50 versus 5 groups of 5. Okay, it's going to be a much bigger number. There's a super handy skill that works here, and so here's what we're going to do. I like to go and I like to underline all of the zeros that are to the right of these numbers. Okay, so I have 1 0 here. Can you still see here that I still have 5 times 5? That part hasn't changed. And so what's really helpful is I can still know that 5 times 5 is 25. That part doesn't change. But since this was a 50, this one is worth 10 times more than 5. I can do this really cool trick where I take this 0 and I'm just going to add it to the end of my answer here. And I know that the product, 5 groups of 50, 5 times 50 is 250. It's the same start of the answer. It's both based on this fact. 5 times 5 is 25. That doesn't change no matter how many zeros you put behind it. That fact, 5 times 5 will always be 25. See how handy that is? And so let's try another one here. Let's say that we had 500 times 5. Okay. Using my little trick here, I'm just going to underline those zeros. And I'm going to remember that those zeros will end up coming back to this other side of the product at the end. Some people, it really depends on what you like to do. You could add those zeros first, if that's what you like to do, and then go back and say, well, 5 times 5, that's still 25. Okay? So you can absolutely do it that way if that's helpful to you. The important thing to remember, just to check a couple of things here, is that you have the same number of zeros on both sides of your equal sign. Okay, so I have 2 zeros here, 2 zeros here, that checks out. Okay, the other thing you want to check is just to make sure that your base facts here, your 5 times 5, that still equals 25. Okay, the only thing that's changed is that 25 has moved from, originally it was in the tens and the ones place, then it was in the hundreds and tens because it grew by 10, now it's in the thousands and hundreds place. So every time it's grown. So we can keep that pattern going on and on. I'll do a much larger one here. So 500 times 500. What do you already know about the answer to that problem? Well, a couple different things. We know that there's 4 zeros in my answer. I'm going to wait and do that part last on this time. I know 5 times 5 is 25. And to find the answer to 500 times 500, I need to add 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros to the end of this product over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it can be a little tricky to read numbers that have that many digits in them, so I would always remember starting here on the right, count back 3 places. 1, 2, 3. Right here between the hundreds and thousands place, we'll put ourselves a comma so that we know that we can read that number much more easily. 500 times 500 equals, can you read this with me? 250,000. Okay? And so this is just a really simple way to help you multiply numbers that are by powers of 10. Okay, let's try maybe one last one here, and then we'll let you do some practice. So let's take a completely different fact family here. Let's say, how about 70 times 400? Okay, so take a look at that. If you'd like to pause the video and give this one a try, you can. Okay, so lots of things haven't changed here. I can still go and count my zeros, 1, 2, 3. My base fact here is 7 times 4. Okay, so I can use my strategies. However you find the answer to 7 times 4, that would be 28. Then I go back and add my zeros. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Put the comma there. So I feel really good that 70 times 400 equals 28,000. Okay? And that's how this skill works, guys. We just take a basic fact that we know, and to show that it's growing by a power of 10, we end up adding the zeros from the left side of the equation. We just add them back to the end of the right side, and that shows that this product is also growing by a factor of 10. All right, amazing job. I can't wait to see how you do on the test. Good luck.